Greetings, my name is Professor William Les Henry, and my contribution for the Windrush Capsule is going to be non-celebratory. And it's not even really going to be commemorative, because I think that our predicament and condition as members of the African branch of the human family in the past 75 years have not qualitatively changed from when my parents arrived here to where we sit today.
Hi, my name's Suhaila Larichi Greenwood. I'm 30 years old and I am the granddaughter of the Windrush community. I enjoy taking part in community events and things that support history, things that support the growth in our community, and they are left in the sands of time.
My name is Omowale Rupatemru. I'm an African whose recent ancestors has passed through the Caribbean. I'm here to talk about this label which has been attached to people with my history called Windrush. So I hope that what I'll share is a perspective which is different from the narrative that has been put on by the British state.
Hi, my name's Janet Monet Telfer. I've been a carer for the last 30 years, and I'm here to tell my Windrush story.
My name is Barbara Mohammed. I'm a member of the Nation of Islam, a student of the Most Honourable Elijah Muhammad, under the guidance of the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan. My passion is with the resurrection, the upliftment, and the unification of Black people all over the planet Earth.
My name's Suleiman Lee from Black Child Promotions, and the issue of the Windrush, which is, always relevant, is very dear to me because my grandmother, the late, great Myrtle Gill, actually had a letter from the Queen and was one of the early nurses within the NHS, along with many other aunties.
My grandparents are of the Windrush generation. They came to England in the 1950s to start a new life. They were invited by the UK government and they came.
My mother and father arrived in England on the 2nd of April 1960. My mother was 3 months pregnant, so I also arrived at the same time.
My mum came to England after my dad a bit. My dad must have come earlier to look for a place and things like that and what have you. She always said when she came to England, they used to call it motherland or what have you, she said she was really happy to come, but she said when she came, all she could remember was thinking how grey everything looked.
My father, I believe, came here in 1951, and my mum joined him in 1952. So they came from Clarendon in Jamaica. When they came, they already had 3 children that they left in the Caribbean.
My parents came in the early 50s. My mum, she wanted to be a police officer. And she was a university graduate at a very early age, around about the age of 16. She thought by coming here, that would give her the opportunity to just live out her dreams. My dad, he worked in one of those big superstores with material. They came over here with big dreams.
The Empire Windrush brings to Britain 500 Jamaicans. Many are ex-servicemen who know England. They served this country well. In Jamaica, they couldn't find work. Discouraged but full of hope, they sailed for Britain. Citizens of the British Empire coming to the mother country with good intent.
It's interesting, the construction of racism that covered even our arrivals. I went down to Kew Gardens. There's a place there where you can look at records, not only records from here in Britain, but records in the Caribbean as well. I couldn't find the records for my mother and father, and there was a reason for that. If you arrived on a ship that came straight from the Caribbean to this country, you were recorded. Your names were taken as you came on board. But if your ship went to somewhere in Europe first, it was treated as other Europeans are arriving. Now, what happened with my parents' ship is it went to Italy. before coming here to Southampton. So because it arrived in Italy, the racist construction of this company didn't oblige them to sign their name. So they had one rule for us as African people coming from the Caribbean who had to sign in, and they had another rule for other Europeans who looked like them coming to this country who did not have to sign in.
Listening to my parents talk about the beauty, the paradise of Jamaica, it was amazing. And growing up, I always used to wonder, why did you come here then? You know, I felt that they were tricked, they were lied to.
One of the things we know about us as peoples of African ancestry from the Caribbean, unlike many of our South Asian brothers and sisters who came here, they had a 5-year myth of return. They thought they were going to come here, make money and go.
We never came here as immigrants. We came here by letter of invitation, and basically they pleaded with us to, even prior to that, in World War II, you know, our soldiers fighting, you know, so all the way through, you know, they've asked for our assistance.
Even the white racists here invested in the 5-year myth of return because they thought we can utilize these people as a resource. And one of the things I've said from time is, as Africans, we were used as a veritable scaffold to build this edifice they called Europe. So what they did to our parents' generations by so-called inviting them here was they thought, get them over here, let them work their whatever it is off for 5 years, then they'll go back to the colonies.
A lot of our parents must have experienced a lot of, you know, a lot of pain. And I have to just say, I'm really, as much as I wouldn't have understood it completely, but you have to look at them and be proud of them.
They were used to traveling to Puerto Rico. They would go to parts of America. It was a bit like the people who come here in the summer to pick cherries or whatever the hell they do and go back. So they didn't want to come to England. England was the mother country. Britain was the mother place, but they didn't want to come here because they did not want to leave Jamaica. They just wanted a better life in Jamaica.
They came over here with big dreams, like everybody else, for 5 years. And 5 years turned out to be 10, then 15, and 20.
Something new and ugly raises its head in Britain. In Notting Hill Gate, only a mile or two from London's West End, racial violence.
What they didn't factor in, for me, were two significant things. One, the unofficial colour bar, because remember, they were not supposed to have a colour bar. And the other thing was the flagrant and blatant ignorance of the people in Britain. The people in systems of governance, like the government, whoever, didn't want their people to be enlightened, to actually think the people who are coming from the colonies, they are British subjects, they are British citizens. So they should be on par with us because we've had this relationship for nearly 500 years, whatever that relationship is.
All I could see was that we were tricked into building another people's country, which we were supposed to be a part of, and our countries were being neglected. And to second that, to come here and to be treated with the disgust that they were treated with when they came via an invitation. Nah, sorry.
One of the things that stands out for me was the hostility that my father faced, because a lot of it isn't really recognised in the public arena. I know when my mother came here, white people used to spit on her, because they used to spit on our parents' generations to the point where some of them used to have to take off their coat before they went in their house.
Ancestors and grandparents rebuilt this country. What do you see? No dogs, no blacks, no Irish. That's the reward that we get.
These are the stories people don't want to talk about. This is the reality.
Schooling for my siblings that were born in Jamaica was very difficult. And I say that because it was a very painful time listening to my siblings. They would always talk about how things were in Jamaica, their education in Jamaica. They came over here, educated children, even though they were young. And when they went into school over here, it was like they were dumb. Their way of speaking, their English was unacceptable, even though they studied the same type of English and maths that they studied in the Caribbean.
When you're young, you don't understand racism or anything like that. So you didn't go to school thinking, oh, this person's racist and what have you. And I was playing with little girls and what have you. And the little girl was fine with me, but then she wanted me to come play with another young boy in the thing. But he said, no, I couldn't play because I was black. And it didn't register. I always remember saying, no, my shoes are black, I'm brown. I think that was obviously my first experience of racism. But I've always said I think racism is learned. It's not something that all, people just go out to be racist.
One of my other brothers was one of the first children to go to the primary school, black children. Their experiences of being treated as almost like the noble, ignorant savage, uneducable, is exactly the same experience as our children are going through. Right now, in 2023, nothing has qualitatively changed.
When I think about the Windrush, it's a painful experience because I saw the British government as draining the Caribbean of our youth. That's how I see it. You drain the Caribbean of the skilled craftsmanship, education, strong minds, and the strong will of the Caribbean youth, because according to my parents, who was left in the Caribbean was the elderly and babies. All the youth left the Caribbean to come to England to build Britain after the Second World War.
Something that does make me sad as well, very sad, is for people that came from Jamaica, especially when they were children and they were on their parents' passports, and then hearing some of these people were being sent back home willy-nilly. That, for me, has been very heartbreaking.
A lot of people that come over as immigrants have more rights than people that came here by invitation. When we look at what Theresa May has done, to the Windrush generation, it's a travesty and it needs to be, taught and explored more.
What they've done is they've constructed this idea of naming us after a boat. Understand that we had a history before Windrush. We had a history before slavery even. We must not allow our history to be curtailed into something called the Windrush.
I feel that younger generations' ideologies towards their culture has been diverted and they are misinformed about who they really are, and that allows for a lot of us to miss the point. We don't see the power in our culture and understand the sacrifices that were made. I don't think we realise that the wealth and capital that we have is not monetary. So it's passed down through storytelling, through engagement, through having real life conversations and connecting with each other like how the community did back in the Windrush. You are born wealthy, your culture is your wealth, and it doesn't matter how much money you do or don't have, you are the wealth in your life.
Life is what you make it, and never let somebody's opinion become your reality. So that's what I would say to any young person, because there's so many things out there at the moment just trying to keep you down or tell you can't do this or you're not capable. Never let anybody's opinion become your reality. That's what I would say.
The infrastructure of Great Britain was built by the hands of our brothers and sisters and parents of the Windrush generation. That's the impression that I would like to leave on the minds, the hearts and the soul of everyone in the United Kingdom. And we should be proud, because I'm very proud of my parents. I'm very proud of my brothers and sisters. And I'm very proud of my brothers and sisters within the Caribbean, of what they've achieved in this country, and they should all be proud of themselves too.
Listen to the lyrics me they fling pon the groove. Say from an African who was twice removed. Say from the motherland to the Caribbean. They entice my parents to come to London. But before me join in on a celebration, let me tell you about the Windrush generation. Cause just like the slaves on the plantation, them use with to build up the whole of England, which they had destroyed in them contention that are the tribal wars of the European. And now them realize Europe soon done. I try them best for all the African down in a poverty trap, so we live in the slum, while them purchase the land in the sun. So that was like a verse of my Windrush. Yeah.